Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio, and I thank you, everyone, for joining and being part of the program. If you want to interact, you go to facebook.com/Battle for Freedom, rumble.com/Battle for Freedom, or you can go to YouTube. Look for Battle for Freedom on YouTube, and you can leave a comment there. I know it seems like it's been forever since we've spoken. A lot of work projects keeping me pretty busy, but I want to make certain that you understand. We're gonna have some fun here. Sorry, so this thing is a little bit off here, so I apologize. We're not coming to an end. We're coming to a beginning. So here you go. Sorry about that, and let's continue with this broadcast as we get on here. Let's do a couple things too before I forget. I apologize. Let's do. Where are you?
It's fascinating. Have you seen it? LaserShopLive.com. It's the YouTube channel for Romika laser engraving and custom designs. We're excited to offer you a 24-hour live stream of our laser shop, along with various videos showcasing our laser work and completed projects. Our state-of-the-art equipment and skilled designers create intricate designs on a variety of materials. With our live stream, you can see firsthand how we create our one-of-a-kind products.
I stumbled upon LaserShopLive.com and was blown away by being able to actually watch them work on their projects. Their laser engraving live stream is fascinating to watch, and I lose all track of time.
Whether you're a business owner, creative professional, or just someone who appreciates unique and personalized items, LaserShopLive.com has something for everyone. And with our YouTube channel, LaserShopLive.com, you can watch our live stream and browse our videos anytime, anywhere. So why wait? Check out Laser Shop Live today and see what all the buzz is about. Visit LaserShopLive.com.
Yes, visit LaserShopLive.com right now. Let them know Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you. And then what'll be great is you can get some really great content. Actually, I'm having a nice cup of hot tea this morning in one of my mugs created from Laser Shop, well, Romika Designs, but they're amazing stuff, and you can watch what they're doing is at Laser Shop Live. Let's do another one.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leo with HorizontalHive.com, and I keep bees naturally. And everything starts by catching a local free swarm of honeybees. You put a small beehive like that on the tree in the springtime, and just as birds move into birdhouses, bees will move into a little hive like that. After that, you take the frames, put them in a bigger box, they expand, they collect honey from the flowers and make good honey for you. And it can be as simple as that. No sugar feeding, no chemical treatments. I'm doing it for a living. And there are so many people who do the same thing. You can learn more in the book, Keeping Bees with a Smile. And it's exactly that, doing natural beekeeping and smiling at the same time.
Yes, natural beekeeping and smile and smile at the same time. Let's do one more, and this is going to be for Sun Oven.
Hey, my name's Trip, and I want to introduce you to Sun Oven. This is our all-American Sun Oven. We've been making these for the last 35 years. We're in 126 different countries all over the world, and basically we call this a solar crock pot. And it's used to be able to just put your food in there and slow cook it with the power of the sun. You can never burn, scorch, or dry anything out inside the Sun Oven. Once you put it in, the sun reflects off of these reflectors in through the glass into the inner chamber, and it reaches temperatures of between 300 and 350 degrees. Really, the design is very simple. It's like the greenhouse effect. If you've got in your car during the summer and it's really, really hot, that's what's happening inside the Sun Oven. You know, anything you cook in your regular oven, you can cook inside the Sun Oven. You can use any of your existing pots and pans. If they'll fit in here, you can cook with them in here, just like you do in your regular oven. It's designed for you to be able to cook your meal out with the power of the sun. And literally, the longer you keep stuff in here, the more juicy and tender it is. So that's a quick introduction to the Sun Oven. Thank you.
Yes, that's a quick introduction to the Sun Oven. Please get yourself one because of the fact that you want to get it before you cannot get them any longer. Great company, great material. You can't go wrong. It's a great system. And when we lose power and how they're continually attacking how they're attacking our systems, and we can't control what they're doing, you're better off being in a position where you can control how you get your food and all that stuff and not worry about being screwed over by the system that wants to constantly keep us down. Please look into the Sun Oven. Let them know Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you. You can't go wrong with that. The last one I want to do is, yeah, that's weird. That's weird. No, I'm not gonna do any more of that. Let's just continue on with this and go from there. Let's see. I will keep that as it is. I will keep this as it is because thank you, sweetie. My daughter gave me some of my tea so I can get my voice all running and ready to rock and roll. And let's do this here. We have this. I'm just trying to make certain that I have the thing to catch your comments as best as I possibly can and go from there. Also, if you have my cell phone number, you can send me a message and we'll go from there and leave any comments. But today we're talking about Elohim Hakol Shli. Elohim Hakol Shli, voice and shield. So we're going to be in Exodus chapter 4 as we look at again the names of God. As we look at his names, as we look at the way that he has dealt with us, Exodus is more than just we focus so much on him redeeming Israel from Egypt. We think of one of my girl's favorite movies, the cartoon series of their rendition of Exodus, where Moses, the Prince of Egypt, and we need to get that on DVD and have the copy of that. But oftentimes we relegate Exodus just to saving them from Egypt, 10 commandments, blah, 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 stop reading, too much slaughter and rules and all this stuff, right? But it's more than that. Because as we look at Exodus, it's about the names of God. As we look at who he is, regardless of what we say. And today the focus is on Elohim Hakol Shli, voice and shield. And usually when we call out, we have all the names of God that we want. We have our songs. We sing about how he's our provider. We sing about how he does so much for us. But we're never obligated to do anything regardless. We just expect him to just keep doing things over and over and over again with no responsibility for us to step up to the plate with regards to the relationship. That's how we treat God. We treat him as a genie. We treat him as, say, give us everything that we want, make me feel comfortable, protect me from my enemies, but there's no requirement on my side to live up to a standard and honor the relationship like he does. And this is the part about it with churchianity is what's really interesting. When I talk to Chief about this hyper grace mentality that we have, because the Old Testament is just God's wrath, and the New Testament is his grace, and if you're following the Old Testament and you're following Torah, then you're just all wrath and no grace. Again, a statement made out of ignorance. A statement made out of people who want to completely blur the lines of responsibilities, because guess what? It's harder to live in grace, hyper grace, than it is to live in Torah. Why? Because there are no boundaries in hyper grace. There are no boundaries in hyper grace. And the reason why this annoys me is because when I look at this particular passage here. This is the one we're going to leave on the screen as we go through Exodus chapter 4. Psalm 18, verse 7. In my distress, I called to Adonai. I called out to my God. Out of his temple, he heard my voice. My cry reached his ears. So let's go back to, is it this one? I want to go back to the image here of the program. So as you sit here and we look at this, you see where we say the voice and shield. We have the scales of justice dead center on the screen. And then we also look at behind it, we have like a wall, a fortress, where we feel comfort and security. Because when we're behind castle walls, when we're behind
walls that are forts, these strong rock buildings, we feel secure and safe, and that, you know what, it says something. When we look at castles, when we are in awe when we look at castles, we're in awe when we look at mansions, we're at awe when we look at massive, strong structures that says strength, power, and not more than just wealth, strength and power. And it says something. It lets us know it's impregnable. And the only way you get through that is through deception, is through, and actually a lack of discernment on the parts of those who are behind the structure. If they just open up their door like the people of Troy, how the Trojans were able to come in, guess what? This is how you get around that. But the Lord cannot be circumvented. He's our strength. He's our shield. We cry out to him. We have all of our amazing songs that we have for him, but we have our songs that describe him, but nothing about how we respond. I'm going to remember to try and include one more verse I didn't put on in the notes when you're looking at this. But I found this very, very interesting. Let's look at this. Back to the scripture passage. In my distress, I called to Adonai. I cried out to my God. Out of his temple, he heard my voice. My cry reached his ears. Let's continue with Exodus chapter 4. Verse 1. Moshe replied, because this is this is during the burning bush experience that Moshe goes into the mountain. He sees the burning bush that's not consumed. He's having a conversation with the Lord. He says, but I am certain they won't believe me. They won't listen to what I say, because they'll say, Adonai did not appear to you. Adonai answered him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a staff. And he said, throw it on the ground. And he threw it on the ground. It turned into a snake. And Moshe recoiled from it. Then Adonai said, put your hand out and take it by the tail. He reached out with his hands and took hold of it, and it became a staff in his hand. This is so that they will believe that Adonai, the God of their fathers, the God of Avraham, the God of Yitz'chak, the God of Yaakov, has appeared to you. So one of the things that's really powerful about this is that Moses was concerned that the people would not believe that you sent me. I am in the presence of watching something amazing, a bush that's on fire that's not consumed, a talking bush that's on fire and not consumed. And the fact that I know that I cannot contain, I know that standing in your presence, this is something amazing, this is something unbelievable, but they are not seeing what I'm seeing. So they won't believe that you showed up. And honestly, Moses, he's lived in Israel. In Egypt. Remember that? He used to be in the house of Pharaoh. And so he turns around and as he's in the house of Pharaoh, one of the things he can recognize is your name ain't there. They don't know who you are. They don't know who you are. Not in truth, in spirit and truth. They may cry out to you. They're in distress and they cry out to you. But outside of when they're in pain, outside of when things are hurting and everything like that, when they're comfortable, they don't cry out to you. They don't know your name. You're not on the tip of their lips. You're not on their hearts. You're not on their minds when everything is perfectly fine. So our relationship with you isn't really that true. We don't live in a manner where it basically our lives indicate someone who is walking by your commandments, walking by your truth. A lot of you say at this point, well, the 10 commandments weren't given yet. No, let's get rid of that. And let's stop going with that simple excuse. Because in Romans 2:15, it says, those who were not given the law lived as though they had the law, but the law was as they lived as the law was written on their hearts, on their conscience. We know who God is. We know that there is someone greater and more important than us, because not all of this came to be by accident. We know it. But our hearts refuse to see the truth. Even now, since April of 2024, I have been going through Torah. And it's very interesting that I have had more outside of my conversations with Chief. I've had more, and my daughter, I've had many more conversations with people not in churchianity about God's word, about Torah, about everything we have in Tanakh, and reading what the word has to say. And yes, we cover whatever between Matthew and Revelation, but the key structure, the key foundation that we need is in Torah. I've had people, farmers, who are not encompassed and entrenched in churchianity, who can have a free will conversation and clearly designate and discern what God's word says. But I've had people that have been in my past, really, really nice people. They have no desire to talk to me anymore because I don't want to be in churchianity. Get that? It's not that I'm not following the Lord. I'm just not following the Lord their prescribed way, which is built on a lie. Meeting together on Sundays instead of Saturday. And turning around, and we have these edifices that I don't even want to go there. I'll leave that alone. It's going to be very interesting that, look, check this out. By this point in time, when Moses is having a conversation with the Lord, it's more than 400 years after they last heard of the voice of God, the name of God, through the God of Avraham, the God of Yitz'chak, the God of Yaakov, and Joseph, who saved Egypt. Was the instrument that God used to save Egypt from a famine. 400 years has passed at this particular point. And as we sit here and we watch this, I don't know if it's 400 years of slavery in this country, but it's 400 years of darkness in this country. Delusion that we're doing God's way. We're a Christian nation. We're a Christian nation. We're just not an obedient, true Bible-following nation. Because if we were, things would be a lot different than they are right now. So here we are. We're crying out to the Lord. This is the real voice. Instead of what is it, 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who hear my name hear my name and cry out, I'll hear their prayers. No. This is the real part where that this is the right, true one. And I'm not denouncing the 2 Chronicles 7:14. It's just that I'm tired of people chanting that verse, and they have no idea. They ignore the key fundamental parts of that verse. Repentance, listening, turning from wicked ways. So here it is. The children of Israel are in pain. They're crying out. Moshe is saying, they don't want to hear me. But here's the funny thing about this. As I look at this opening part about the Lord said, what's in your hand? And he said it was a staff. He threw it to the ground and it became, hey, Lisa, thank you for joining and being part of the program. I love this because here's the funny part about it. That of all the things that the Lord turned around and asked him to say, hey, listen, what's in your hand? He puts it together. He's looking at it, and it becomes a snake. Now, of course, snakes, and hey, shout out to Curtis and Larry over there in Rumbleverse. Missed you guys as well, too. Of all the things to basically be controlled, it was a snake. What's a snake? You know, the first time we ever hear the mention of a snake was in the garden at the fall. And it's very interesting that of all the things that the Lord used the staff to become, it turned out to be something that thought it had more power and control than everybody else. See, long before the battles ensue, It goes to show you that the Lord of creation has power over our greatest perceived enemy in this world. We keep thinking the devil is our greatest threat. Honestly, our greatest threat is the person we see in the mirror. And so when we want to cry out, the devil made me do it, like Flip Wilson used to say, the Lord's basically trying to say, if I have power over the devil to overcome him, I have power to even overcome you. If you're willing to submit to me, my word, my way. Don't call out to me. Don't call out to me for help. But you don't want to do the prescribed things that says our relationship is authentic. What did Yeshua say? If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Over in Rumbleverse, Larry said, it's my rod, God. and oh, I love this. And I love this. Curtis says, at least that snake wasn't talking. Awesome. Very true. Very true. That snake wasn't talking. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness, dude. That is gold. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so basically, as they sit there and they see this, seriously, think about that. That the rod, the staff became a snake. Something that we recoil from, something that we're fearful of. And the Lord is saying, don't worry. You're gonna grab it at the opposite end, and it's going to submit to you. You don't try and snake charm. Don't try and snake fight. Don't try and combat the enemy. All you have to do is grab its end. I'm showing you that all you to do is touch the end of that snake, not fight it. Just grab the end of that snake. That is in a safe manner. We're not snake handling here. Just grab its end and it'll submit. I just don't think that we never really pay attention to what God's word says. And we're constantly saying, God, what's your will for me in my life? Hey, let's get to that 1980s commercial. Riff. Reading is fundamental. Read it. Read the book. It's in there. Reading is fundamental. Holy cow, we read everything else in the world except his word and wonder why things don't go the way we want to. Oh, that's good. The snake wasn't talking. That was good. That's my rod, God. That's good. Love you guys. That's just, that's super. Verse 6, Furthermore, Adonai said to him, now put your hand inside your coat. He put his hand in his coat, and when he took it out, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. Then God said, now put your hand back in your coat. He put his hand back in his coat, and when he took it out, it was healthy. It was as healthy as the rest of his body. And he says, if they won't believe you or heed the evidence of the first sign, they will be convinced by the second. You know, and before we continue on that, it's very interesting because first we see power over our greatest perceived foe, the devil. But then we get to the point where leprosy, the hand becoming so sickened and diseased. And so what happens is it looks almost like death. Honestly, you know, you sit there and I wonder if when it looked like it's white, when it looked so horrible, white as snow, that it almost looked like it was dead, like it was death, that there was like no blood, no life flowing through his hands. And now here it is looking like it's dead, like a valley of dry bones. And he says, so when they see that your hand is leprous, when they see that your hand looks completely dead and there's no life and it's no mistaking and recognizing there's something wrong with your hand, and you put it back in your shirt and pull it back out, and they see that your hand is clear. Not a magic trick. Not a magic trick. They're watching everything going on. They'll believe the second. But in verse 9 it says, but if they aren't persuaded by even both of these signs and still won't listen to what you say, then take some water from the river and pour it on the ground. The water you take from the river will turn into blood on the dry land. So this, in other words, they will watch. So then when they thought that was a trick, that you were hiding something in your sleeve, guess what? You're going to go to the river with a bowl, and they're going to watch you. There's nothing in the bowl. You see, there's nothing in the bowl. Okay. They could turn around and even pour water in the bowl on land and then pour that out so they can see there's nothing in the bowl. There's no dust. There's nothing in there that would indicate that once I add the river water to this, that it's going to turn into blood. So when he goes over, scoops water out of the river, pours on the ground, it turns into blood on dry land. There was nothing on the ground. There was no dust. There was no special chemicals on the ground that would make the water turn into blood. See, because everybody's going to try and find every reason, every excuse. Yeah, there's something behind this magician, and we're going to figure out what the magician's tricks are. The Lord is saying, I'm going to set up situations that they, without the shadow of a doubt, can bow the knee, bow the heart, bow the spirit, and say, you know what? God's moving here. The Lord of creation, the one, think about this, the one who parted the Red Sea just put a puddle of blood on the water, on the ground. The one who struck down the first child, the first son of of Egypt, where if there wasn't the blood of a lamb on the doorpost of their home, death that struck that family, the children were probably as white as snow when they were dead. That same God is now here to basically control and save us. So there is no, and it's interesting, even as I think about the serpent and everything like that, when you look at a lot of when we look and consider a lot of the imagery from the time of Egypt, the serpent was the most common instrument or animal we saw on their designs, on their clothing, that the serpent was something that was seen as the pinnacle of power in Egypt. And the Lord is basically saying their pinnacle of power is just a tool in my hand that I can easily control and subdue. It's so beautiful the way he does this, and we keep thinking that we know better than him. Oh, the Lord is so good. The Lord is so good. I love the way he does this. He's like, I'm going to shut down any kind of language that tries to discredit who I am and who's showing up to rescue you. No one can say the Lord of creation isn't here. I am here. Yahweh is here to redeem my people. So as we sit there, we watch this. I love how the Lord continues to do this. We're coming up on a break. Let's get ready for a break, folks. And what we'll do is I'll talk to you beautiful people on the flip side.
Psalm 1, verse 1. How blessed are those who reject the advice of the wicked, don't stand on the way of sinners, or sit where the scoffers sit. I love this because it's basically saying that the person does not want to associate with wickedness in any way, from hearing, standing near, associating, nor being comfortable enough to rest in his presence. Verse 2 says, their delight is in Adonai's Torah. On his Torah they meditate day and night. In other words, they love the teachings of God, and this is what they think about day and night. They are like trees planted by the streams. They bear their fruit in season. Their leaves never wither. Everything they do succeeds. Verse 3 is basically hinting that there's life in them, and it's not murky, stagnant water that passes by them or fills them. It's flowing, life-giving, clean water.
But verse 4 says, not so the wicked, who are like chaff driven by the wind. Chaff, it's a substitute, or it looks like, or an imitation of wheat that has no substance and has no value, and it's easily manipulated. For this reason, the wicked won't stand up to the judgment, nor will sinners at the gathering of the righteous. In other words, there is no hope for those who reject the teachings of Adonai, who reject his Torah. They will not be able to stand, even though they think that they're gods. The Lord of creation will humble them. Verse 6, for Adonai watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. In other words, if our goal is to reject Adonai, his teachings, his Torah, his rule, his order, that means that we will suffer the consequences of living in no order and complete chaos, facing his wrath for eternity. Why? Because we rejected his truth. Triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for freedom. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio. Thank you as we continue to go through this fourth chapter of Exodus. Again, just major shout out to all the people listening right now. Those of you who are listening and following on Facebook, on Rumble, on YouTube. It doesn't matter whether you're watching it live right now or you're watching it in the future. I say thank you. I say thank you, and I want to say my appreciation to you, because you don't have to sit here and wait. You don't have to sit here and take your time out to listen to me, and I appreciate you listening. You know, it's interesting as I sit here and I look at this, as we continue to talk about Elohim Hakol Shli, our voice and shield. I think about this, the idea of a shield. A shield doesn't work unless you get behind the shield. The shield is a defensive weapon. We know it because we love talking about when we talk about our spiritual armor and everything like that, right? And what's really interesting is when we sit here and we talk about this shield, that the only way that the shield can properly work is we have to abide by the rules of operating a shield. So what's the purpose of the shield? Well, it's supposed to stand in front of us and prevent us from being attacked. It's supposed to turn around and put itself in a position where when we need it, and we need it to protect us, we're going to stand behind the shield because it's going to take all the attacks from the enemy. So we won't put our arm out to stop the attack from the enemy. We won't stick our leg out. We won't even turn around and wave our butts at the attacker, because we know that the shield is supposed to take the brunt of the attack. You have all these amazing pictures, and I love they show these pictures of the Lord sitting there and fighting all the fiery arrows and darts that are coming our way. But in order to enjoy that protection, we do have to be behind the shield. And we have to operate according to the rules of being behind that shield. But what's really interesting, though, is I've always found it very interesting and troubling that we keep turning around and asking for the protection of God. We ask him to be our justice. We ask him to be our fortress. We ask him to do all these different things, but we don't want to abide by the people who are enjoying those said protections from the Lord. I liken back to even what was it? You remember when we were talking about Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov? That she was I believe the youngest daughter of the children of Leah, and she decided she wanted to go out on the streets, hang out with the women in the streets. She wanted to leave the protection of her home, and she put herself in a situation where she ended up getting raped. She left the protections of her home, got raped. And it's interesting, as I talked to Chief about this, he's like, look at the response of Yaakov. Because instead of basically getting angry about what happened, he kept his mouth shut. Because when it gets to the point that she just leaves the house without protection, there had been many discussions before her making that willful decision to just walk away from the protections of her home. And finally, her dad's like, okay, leave. Do what you want to do. The moment that you leave, I can't protect you. The moment that you get outside of the protection of the shield, I can no longer protect you. You cannot cry victim if you put yourself in the line of the attack. If you put yourself in the line of the assault. James chapter 4. Let me. This is an amazing one. Let's go to James chapter 4 because everyone loves them some James, right? But this is a very interesting one. We're gonna go to James chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. Okay, I know this wasn't originally part of what we were going to talk about, but I think that this is really, really key. Therefore, submit to God. Moreover, take a stand against the adversary, and he will flee from you. But what starts first what was the first thing that came first? Submitting to God. And what does submitting to God means? Standing behind him and submitting yourself to his rules, his word, his way. And then once you're doing that, you have the strength to basically stand against the enemy, not attack the enemy. You can stand when he's attacking because of the fact that you've positioned yourself behind the word, behind the Lord, behind his and submit to his word, his will. It doesn't mean that you won't be attacked. Like when they hit the walls, like when we think of the Lord of the Rings and they're attacking Helm's Deep, or they're attacking Minas Tirith. Yeah, they're throwing boulders, they're throwing everything at these walls. They're catapulting huge, large boulders. The orcs are they're coming and descending upon the walls of Minas Tirith and Helm's Deep. And they're doing everything that they can to break the fortifications of those walls. But as long as you were on the inside of the wall, you were protected. As long as the walls held, you were protected. As long as there were no holes or gaps where orcs can run in and blow the structure of the wall, you were protected. See, the only way Torah has no power in our lives is the moment that we turn around and we put ourselves ahead of the protection of God's word. When we boldly and braggadociously and what's the word for it? Arrogantly believe that we can engage in spiritual warfare, and we go on the offensive, going after demons, going after false preachers, going after all these individuals, making it our ministry in life in things like apologetics and TV series that basically shut down all these false preachers, but we don't know anything about his word. We know nothing about Torah. That's when we get exposed. That's when we go down like the sons of Sceva. Because we thought we had all that power, not realizing the power, our true power, was submitting to God. Our true power was submitting to God. Come close to God, and he will come close to you. Clean your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded people. Because it's double-mindedness to think that I can turn around, cry out, God, save me! As I jump into the fire, save me! Yeah. Oh, Stains76 on Rumble says, if you know, he says Old Testament, Tanakh, and you don't see Jesus, Yeshua, you are a liar. If you don't see, it's clear there. If you can't see the Lord in the Old Testament, what we say in what we say in Christian theology, Christophanies, appearances of the Lord in the past, in the Old Testament, Christophanies, just beautiful words, right? Yeshua, the Lord's there. He's always been there. Instead of trying to find these nice, beautiful, fancy words, just keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Go back to the KISS principle, but we've overcomplicated with our highfalutin degrees, and we are nowhere near center with God. Thank you, Staines. Appreciate you and your comment there. The Lord is calling something different for us, and we have to change what we're doing. Psalm 18:7. In my distress, I called to Adonai. I cried out to my God. Out of his temple, he heard my voice, and my cry reached his ears. Out of his temple, he heard. Out of his temple, a structure, a place where there is worship and praise and holiness. He's listening. You have to understand something. We're crying out to God because we've displaced ourselves from him. He's never gone anywhere. He wants us. What did David say? I was glad when they said, let us go into the house of the Lord. It's not church. It's not the church buildings we go to on Saturdays, Sundays, throughout the week. That's not the house of the Lord. The house of the Lord is his temple, not our synagogues of Satan, his temple. And that starts with submitting to his will, to his way, to his word, period. Let's continue. Moses, verse 10, Moshe said to Adonai, "Oh Adonai, I'm a terrible speaker. I always have been, and I know better now. Even after you've spoken to your servant, my words come slowly, my tongue moves slowly." Adonai answered him, "Who gives a person a mouth? Who makes a person dumb or deaf, keen-sighted or blind? Isn't it I, Adonai? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and will teach you what to say." See, here's a part about it that I think is very funny, is that even standing in the presence of the Lord and watching the amazing things he does in our lives, we still find reasons to be afraid. What are they going to say about me, Lord? If I turn around, they're not going to believe me. I just turned a staff to a snake and back. I just turned your hand to death and back. I can turn water to blood on dry land, and you're still questioning me? See, this right here, there was a point where Moshe was obedient. He followed what the Lord said. He did what he needed to do. He gave us the rest of Torah and the commandments and everything that we need to do, the ceremonial laws, everything like that, right? I think right here, this was the seeds of his rebellion against God when he was so. Because think about this. Look at the language. "Oh Adonai, I'm a terrible speaker. I have always been, and I am no better now. My words come slowly. My tongue moves slowly." In other words, everything is in his strength. Everything that he's complaining about, his ineptitude to get anything done, is because of the fact he's operating in his strength rather than in the strength of the person who just did the miraculous signs before him. He's still talking to the burning bush that's not consumed, and he's telling God, "I can't do it." He's standing in the face of the impossible, saying, "It's too impossible for me to accomplish." It's kind of like when we decide that we want to do things like fasting, when we want to basically fast for extended periods of time. Every time I decide to go on a fast, several weeks ago, I went 216 hours straight. Water, tea, coffee. Water, tea, coffee. That's all I had. Everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't do it." You can. Well, for men. Women, it's said that women physiologically should not exceed say a 72 to 96 hour fast. But for me, that was perfectly fine. Clarity like no tomorrow. I need to start another one now. We sit there and we're like, literally, he's standing in the face of the impossible, saying it's impossible for me to do what you said I can do. Verse 13, but he replied, please, Lord, send someone else, anyone you want. At this, Adonai's anger blazed up against Moshe. He said, don't you have a brother, Aharon the Levi, Aharon the Levi? I know that he's a good speaker. In fact, he is here now, coming out to meet you, and he'll be happy to see you. You will speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with him, be with your mouth and his, teaching you both what to do. Thus, he will be your spokesman to the people. In effect, for you, he will be a mouth, and for him, you will be like God. Now take the staff in your hand because you need it to perform the signs. It's interesting. The Lord's like, I can't believe you're rebelling against me. See, this is the thing that's really amazing, is the doubt and the fear that's in the heart of Moshe is the same doubt and fear that's in the hearts of the children of Israel. But the Lord recognized he's not going to make it into the promised land. So what I have to do now is I have to prepare someone else who isn't going to make excuses. I have to have a second person. You know how we love saying, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name? Here the Lord has set it up. I will have 2 people who will learn. So when one's maybe nodding off and sleeping, leaning on their staff a little bit too long, or have fake eyes plastered over their eyes to make it seem like they're awake and paying attention during the lesson, there'll be another one who's actually paying attention. Because it's important to me that I'm not going to leave this in the hands of one individual. I'll make sure at least 2 different individuals are informed, so that when the message needs to go out clear, the one who may have missed a step, there'll be another one who could fill in and basically say what needs to be done. Kind of like what the Lord did when he sent out the disciples 2 by 2. Just amazing what he does and his consistency. Now he says this stuff. He's like, you don't have a voice? Guess what? I have a voice coming from you, because guess what? You're not escaping this responsibility. See, because Moshe, he knows if I go back to Israel, they're going to kill me because I killed somebody. I don't have a voice. No one's going to protect me. I'm going to get killed. This is almost like Esther's moment where she had to go and speak to Artaxerxes. Because if you show up unannounced, you die. He's like, I don't want to be announced, and I don't want to show up because I don't want to die. Verse 18, Moshe left, returned to Yitro, his father-in-law, Jethro in other translations, and said to him, I beg you to let me go and return to my kinsmen in Egypt to see if they are still alive. Yitro said to Moshe, go in peace. His father-in-law, who's a priest, he's like, yep, go, do what you got to do. I'm not getting in the way of the Lord, because I know you having to go back to Egypt is not something you wanted to do. So go in peace, bro. You do what you got to do. I know that I saw the burning bush too, and you need to go. Adonai said to Moshe in Midyan, go on back to Egypt, because all the men who wanted to kill you are dead. So Moshe took his wife and his sons and put them on a donkey and started out for Egypt. Moshe took God's staff in his hand, and Adonai said to Moshe, when you go back to Egypt, make sure that you do before Pharaoh every one of the wonders I've enabled you to do. Nevertheless, I am going to make him hard-hearted, and he will refuse to let the people go. Then you are to tell Pharaoh, Adonai says, Israel is my firstborn son. And I have told you to let my son go in order to worship me, but you have refused to let him go. Well then, I will kill your firstborn son. Interesting. Because the very last thing, the very last plague to affect him was the very first thing the Lord told him. See, we keep thinking of Moses and the Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston and all that stuff. We keep thinking that, or even from the Prince of Egypt, we keep thinking that it went in those orders. There was a warning to Pharaoh before it all began. Listen, if you don't let my people go, I'm taking your firstborn child. So the warning was right up front. It was there. I will take out your firstborn, one I know you love. I know the one, and you're going to try and hide him, but understand, you will not be able to hide him from me. Let my firstborn go. Let Israel go, or I will take what's most dear to you. I will kill your firstborn son. Oh my goodness, that's just powerful. And in verse 24, at a lodging place and on the way, Adonai met Moshe, and he would have killed him, had not Tzipporah taken a flintstone and cut off the foreskin of her son. She threw it at his feet, saying, "What a bloody bridegroom you are for me." But then God let Moshe be. She added, "A bloody bridegroom because of the circumcision." See, because of the fact that, interesting that they understood. Get this. Had not Tzipporah taken a flintstone and cut off the foreskin of her son, she threw it at his feet, saying, "What a bloody bridegroom you are for me." Get this. Tzipporah knew the word of God. She knew what was required from the Lord. She understood. See, everybody keeps thinking that circumcision is just a Jewish thing. It was a cultural identity that people understood. You have to take something personal from the man. You have to remove excess stuff from the man so that he could submit himself to God. His own wife did what he did not do. Is it possible that Moshe didn't do this because of the fact that his culture from Egypt, the very behaviors of what he learned from in Egypt, and he's just so into the world that now he's being reacclimated to the world, but he's still approaching Pharaoh in rebellion against God because his son should have been circumcised. That practice, it's not like he didn't know that this was what was required. He didn't do it. And it's really sad that his wife had to be the one who did what he didn't want to do, because God was going to take Moshe out. She did what was required and basically dealt with the circumcision that was not done to her son. How did she know this? Her father was a priest. Her father knew the word. Her father understood the instructions of yielding and being obedient to God. Verse 27. Adonai said to Aharon, "Go into the desert to meet Moshe." He went and met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. Moshe told everything Adonai had said in his sending him, including all the signs he had ordered him to perform. Then Moshe and Aharon went and gathered together all the leaders of the people of Israel. Aharon said everything Adonai had told Moshe, who then performed the signs for the people to see. The people believed when they heard that Adonai had remembered the people of Israel and seen how they were oppressed. They bowed their heads and worshipped. Get that? Moses was like, "I can't speak." He said, "No, bro, I got that covered. All you have to do," 1 Samuel 15:22, "I desire obedience over sacrifice." So even though you're not going to speak, you still have responsibilities of what you need to do. Even though you are fearful of speaking, or you feel that you don't have the capability of communicating the truth that I've given you, your actions are still required. Think about this. Even with the birth of John the Baptist and his father, Zachary, or Zacharias, I can't recall, but either way, he lost his voice, but it did not stop him. Curtis, orc lives matter. Dummy. He turned around, even though he was obedient to what was required for, God took his voice away because of the fact, the miracle of the birth of John the Baptist, the baptizer. They couldn't, Elizabeth was barren. The Lord brought life into her womb. And the Lord was like, you're going to keep quiet until I give you a voice to speak. But that does not remove you from the responsibilities of still operating and being obedient as I've called you to be. We don't want to see and listen to what the word of the Lord has to say, but it's right here. He shows up, he says, the leaders, so Aharon now knows what Moses should be doing, what should be said. So he's like, so Moses is not escaping his responsibility. And when the people saw the signs, and they saw the man who fled Egypt now bravely standing back in their presence, the one who could be killed for just being in Egypt, now doing these wondrous signs, the one who was fearful of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, now empowered to stand before the person who could take their lives. Now they see the signs of what God could do, changing a staff to a snake and back, and basically taking a dead hand and bringing life back to it, and then turning around and turning water into blood on dry land. All of them. The significance. I am stronger than the highest power worshipped in this land. I have power over life and death, and I can bring blood, life-giving matter into existence right out of water. What was their response? They bowed their heads and worshiped. They bowed their heads and worshiped. See, when we're standing in the presence of God, our only responsibility is to bow our head and worship. I was talking to Chief about this. Lazarus. You remember, he's dead, and at this particular point, both of his sisters are mourning. Martha and Mary are both mourning the death and loss of their brother Lazarus. It is 4 days he's been dead, and they hear that the Lord is on the way. He's coming into the village where they live. And so Martha runs out and confronts the Lord. Dude, yo, bro, where you been? Where you been? Had you been here, my brother would still be alive. He's like, don't worry about it. I got it. No emotions. Just this is a business interaction. When Mary learns that the Lord is here, she runs out to the Lord, bows down before the Lord, and worships him, saying, Lord, Creator, Shield, Banner, Voice, Provider, Eternal One, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. If you had been here, my brother would still be alive. And the Lord was moved. One sister approached him with disrespect. The other one showed up with humility, and his heart was moved by the one who bowed and worshiped him. See, the reason why things continue to fall apart for the quote-unquote church around the world, because they're not bowing and oh no, we got worship every service. No. You got play acting going on. You're not bowing and worshiping. You just doing your rain dance, hoping that he's going to hear you. And you're going to hear when you stand before him before the throne. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. Let's do this verse one more time. Psalm 18:7. In my distress, I called to Adonai. I cried out to my God. Out of his temple, he heard my voice. My cry reached his ear.